I know what I want to hear real quick out of all of you. This 12-team proposal that was red hot and looked like it was ready to roll through and everything was good in the summer. Now we're hearing objections, and the most recent coming that's specific is from the ACC commissioner. So who holds the power? Where does this stand? Do you have any idea? What are you optimistic that is going to get pushed through? Steve, where do you think we are?
Yeah, I've talked about this quite a bit. I don't see a need for 12. I think 8 is nice and neat and actually could fit within the current calendar. Maybe if you moved the start of the season up 1 week and played the championship games Thanksgiving weekend and the first round of the playoffs at campus sites the first weekend in December, and then the semifinals on or about January the 1st and championship where it is now, the 10th, 11th, 12th. Otherwise, you're going to have season creep deep into January in the second semester, which there's no reason for that. And I don't know. That's my overarching thought about it. Everybody is coming at this. If you read the Dennis Dodd columns, and I don't know who else has been on the forefront of this, that everybody wants their objective from this and is refusing to look at this from a best of college or what's best for college football and the athletes standpoint. And I don't know how anybody in their right mind could think 12 is what's best unless you're taking away conference championships or going back to an 11-game regular season. I just don't know in this era of student athlete welfare and guys opting out of postseason games why anybody thinks the answer is two more for some of these teams. I think that's tone deaf. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. I think that COVID created budget shortfalls in so many places that the bean counters have taken control of this situation and said, yeah. If we add 8 more games to this playoff, which is what it would be going from 4 to 12, you add 8 because 8 more teams need to be eliminated. We're going to make, 8 times 30 million, another $250 million a year or whatever, and split that up, among the 50 of us or whatever. And that's an extra $5 million per Power 5 school or whatever per year. That's something we can do something with, I just don't get it. So that's my thought. You can't get it. It's herding cats. You can't get everybody, when you figure you got 5 of them, 8 of them have walked off. So I don't know.
What do you think, Kevin?
I don't have a strong opinion. I wasn't in favor of 4. I'm not in favor of 6, 8, 10, 12. I like the bowl system. I think the biggest takeaway I have is, Kevin Warren seems to be a bit of a fly in the ointment in terms of the way that these meetings have gone. Well, if he couldn't cancel football in 2020, he's going to sit there and be sure to screw up the move to the 12-team playoff. I don't know. I just really don't have a strong opinion. I just think that it's just I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, it's going to water things down, but I think it's going to water things down a little bit. And they haven't consulted me on anything yet. I'm waiting. You can hit me on Twitter at Kevin_Noon. I'll open my DMs.
So you'd go all the way back to 1985 and play the bowl games and vote?
Why not?
Okay.
People are gonna piss and moan about it anyway.
How about a +1 after that? I've heard that suggested. You play all the bowl, you go back to a traditional setup, and I think it would be a bit messy, but at least there's some years where you could say, okay, we just play the Rose, the Sugar, the da-da-da-da, and man, Ohio State and Alabama, they're the 2 best. So let's get a game together. Boom, that's the game.
Yeah, but then instead of number 5 complaining about stuff and not getting in, 5, 6, and 7, 3, 4, and 5 are going to complain. There's always going to be complaints about it. So I don't know. The only thing that's consistent is that when it comes to trying to figure out how the postseason is going to work out or whatever, I'm just going to let people far more involved than me be involved in that because I just don't have a strong opinion.
Tony?
I never get into then the teams that get left out will complain. They all agreed to it before the season, so they can shut up after the season. Like, they can shut up. You get left out, that's your own problem. You agreed to this. You wanted this. You were okay with it beforehand. I like the idea of 12 teams, but I like the idea with on-campus playoffs, and it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So I don't need more games in NFL stadiums in college football. I'm perfectly fine with 8. I want conference championships to be automatic qualifiers. I think that's one way of expanding the playoffs without expanding the playoffs. You can keep it at 8, but it's actually 14 teams or whatever if you do that, or 13, 12, whatever it is. But I asked at the Big Ten Media Days this year, I asked probably 15 players, do you want 12 teams? And only 2 of them were against it. Like, they wanted the opportunity, and if it meant more games, all that meant was, we're going to be playing 17 in the NFL next year. So what does 15 matter now, or 16? So that's what most of them said. A couple of them, including Minnesota running back Mohamed Ibrahim, was like, well, you better pay me more. And that was the thought. And for a guy who is, you totally understand a guy who's getting the ball 30 times a game, not wanting to play 16 games without getting an NFL salary for it. And of course, he ends up getting injured against Ohio State. But I think the players that I talked to were in favor of it, but that may have been that was certainly an early opinion. And you can see things kind of turning away from that throughout the year when it starts to come to the point of what's in it for me? Why are you asking? Why do I have to do these things if I'm not getting any type of compensation for it? But again, you can't trust the NCAA, or not even the NCAA, but the powers that be to produce a 12-game playoff in the correct way. And Steve's right. It's hurting cats. You can't get them all to agree, so I guess you just knock the number down and get it back to 8 or whatever. And they wanted 12 instead of 8. We'll see how it goes. I think once Oklahoma, and I know we're trying to get out of here, I've got to go. Oklahoma and Texas did the backdoor deal to the SEC that threw everything. That made everybody distrust everybody. And now you're seeing the result.
I think the Big Ten would benefit, based on the last 5 or 6 years of play, on a 12-team playoff more than any other conference in terms of getting that next echelon, that Penn State, Michigan tier in there.
But it all comes back to winning your early season non-conference games. When Penn State beats Auburn and Iowa beats Iowa State, the Big Ten moves up the pecking order, and that's how you get multiple teams into the New Year's Six and into ultimately this playoff.